Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Steves! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue think they slate, dropping unrealistic man. 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli. Never hear me preach LeBron to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through to early 22. Authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day. Good afternoon, folks. It is that time again. We're back for episode 47 of the 3-Point Blitz. We're 3 away from episode 50, and this time around it's going to be a more interesting episode because there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about that happened during the week, but there's still some subjects to talk about, and so I decided afterward we're going to do something a little fun this time. We're going to revisit a series I did about a year ago after we talked about the NBA All-Star Weekend, Chris Paul's retirement, Miami Dolphins just self-sabotaging further by getting rid of every notable player. Going to revisit a series I did last year on the greatest players for each NBA team. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. Let's get the rant of the week out the way. And this is going to be about the dunk contest because it feels like the NBA Slam Dunk Contest has lost its appeal, and there's a couple reasons why. One of the reasons is because you don't get a lot of stars in the dunk contest. Mostly, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to give players that aren't that notable an opportunity to participate, try to make a name for themselves. But when you got guys that most fans either have only know by name or don't really know that much, it's not going to do well for its appeal, though. You need at least someone that the fans are familiar with in the contest, and that's been something that's been lacking for years. You get the occasional Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, phenomenal finish to their slam dunk contest in 2016, which drew people's attention. It was all over social media the next day, and that kind of played a role in the world Zach LaVine's rise as a popular player, future all-star. But outside of that, recent year, outside of Mac McClung's dunks itself, the highlights from it, people aren't really paying attention to the dunk contest that much. Part of it is because lack of star power in it, because years past, you had Michael Jordan was in the slam dunk contest. Remember, Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins. Both players respectively won 2 dunk contests each, and you had that year Jordan and Wilkins in the 80s, both guys going back and forth, putting up 50s from the judges, and had that classic slam dunk contest, which is still regarded as the greatest closing round of any slam dunk contest in history. You had that right there. You had, of course, Vince Carter, 2000, Kenny the Jet Smith, let's go home after the first dunk. We remember that one. That caught Shaquille O'Neal and the rest of the players' attention sitting courtside watching. We remember Blake Griffin going over a car. And that ties into something else, too. Part of it is we've seen a lot of these dunks before. Like, we've seen the between the legs, jumping over a player, using a prop, taking off from the free throw line. While they are impressive from a visual, we've seen it before. Like, we saw Michael Jordan doing it years ago. It doesn't have that same appeal now, guys trying to take off from the free throw line in a dunk contest, because we've seen it before. The between the legs, while it's not easy, it doesn't have that same visual appeal because we've seen it countless times throughout the years. So that's another factor too. It's the lack of star power throughout really the past couple decades, even, because name me, how many slam dunk contests has LeBron James participated in? 0. So there's that. There was a star there, could have helped out in the mid-2000s star power wise if he participated. I mean, the closest we ever got was on NBA Live as far as LeBron being in the dunk contest goes, or even if you do NBA 2K and you simulate my eras and you play during then. But outside, we never actually seen it for real, though. So there was some potential star power that could have drew more eyes in the mid-2000s that was lost opportunity. Derrick Rose before his ACL injury, we could have seen some him. But while I'm still on that subject, let's not forget Dwight Howard with the Superman cape, which it was cool from a visual. It wasn't the greatest dunk in the world, but it gets points because of the flashy visual of seeing his Superman cape on while he's taking off from the free throw line. That was kind of cool visually, but yeah, over the years, it's lost its luster because we've seen a lot of these dunks before. We've seen the using a prop. We've seen the, over a car between the legs, taking off from the free throw line, windmill, arm in the basket. We've seen all these tricks before. I mean, most of the unique dunks are on video games now. Like in video game slam dunk contests, like the flips and those. We don't see that in real life, so that's part of the reason it's lost its appeal. But I feel like if at least we got some stars into it, with all due respect to the guys like Mac McClung's, Keish Kasheed Johnson and those guys, Jace Richardson, aka Jason Richardson II. With all due respect to them, though, it would help. Like, it would have helped if Zion, when healthy, would have been in a dunk contest, because that would have actually generated some eyeballs. Or John Morant. That would generate eyeballs on the dunk contest, at least out of curiosity. Or maybe even Mac McClung and John Morant possibly competing against each other in a dunk contest. That would generate some intrigue, wouldn't it? Yeah, exactly. And Blaze point out, because some of you guys may have seen the video Mac McClung did 4 dunks on where he posted it on social media, but he was at a gym doing it, but he didn't do it, and he didn't participate in the dunk contest. And had he participated, it would have got a lot more attention and he would have won easily. But exactly. And as far as Blaze says, games, maybe do dunk. Yeah, and the dunk contest too. Plus, it would actually get people interested, because you've seen what Zion can do with the 360 dunk. You would probably go into it thinking, okay, maybe Zion could come up with something creative. John Morant, there's the believability that he would come up with something creative, and that would get more people interested in the dunk contest. So that's the other factor, the star power or lack of star power in recent years in these contests. Like, there's a lot of different guys you could have tried with. Imagine in the mid-2000s, say, if you would have had a dunk contest with these guys. LeBron James, young LeBron, Tracy McGrady, there's another, Jason Richardson, name 3, or Vince Carter. Could you imagine those 4 in a slam dunk contest? How that would have definitely drew eyeballs. Or even more recent years, like if you would have went with, say, Zion, Ja, Mac McClung, and all right, maybe you could have gotten, Keisha Johnson. That would have been an interesting dunk contest, just to see, okay, let's see what Zion does. Let's see what Ja does. Let's see how Mac McClung let's see these guys in a dunk contest. I mean, and it's kind of a shame. It's actually kind of sad for Keisha Johnson, because most people aren't talking about the dunk contest part of it. I mean, like using another person as a prop, it got people to watch the highlights, but we've seen that before. Trust me, within a week, people aren't going to be talking about Keisha Johnson's dunk contest unless he goes out and plays in a game and actually does something incredible. People aren't going to be talking about him in a week or 2 from now. And Blaze says he would want McClung, Zion, Ja, and Sharp. I mean, and even that, any of those pairings would have actually generated some more interest. And to debunk the point of the current formula, well, it gives the younger players a chance to get noticed. Well, that's not really working as well as it would be if you at least got some star names in the dunk contest. If you got some star names, more people would be interested, or at least one star. It would actually generate more interest. But, the NBA's gone away from that formula in recent years, and it hasn't worked as well. I get the idea that it's a rising stars contest. I get it, but you could also do a formula where you get maybe 2 or 3 established names that are popular, maybe 2 other guys that put up some spectacular dunks but aren't as well known. Okay, that would at least work too. Get guys like Shaedon Sharpe or Johnson in there, throw them in there with Zion and Ja would be another way you could do it. Boom, that would actually get some eyeballs for Zion and Ja and give the other guys an opportunity to showcase themselves with a larger audience. But the NBA hasn't done that. They've been, I get what they're trying to do, but it just isn't working as well with the appeal-wise. And to be fair, like I said, so that would be something that they want more interest in the dunk contest. That's something they would have to do. But you know what? The NBA still gets people to tune in for the three-point contest. So they're going to keep going with it because they know the three-point contest is the main draw, which I'll get to in a minute. But while we're still on that subject of, that's it for the rant of the week, but we're going to switch gears real quick, talk about the Miami Dolphins. At first, I get it. It's kind of a business move, and I know Tyreek Hill his morale wasn't the greatest, so the Dolphins decide, let's just cut ties with him. But at the same time, when you look at what the Dolphins did after that, they went ahead and released someone else too. It was first they cut Tyreek Hill, which I kind of get the business side of it. But then they go after that, then they release Bradley Chubb. Like, wait a minute. You released 2 of your best players on your team. Look, I could get the Tyreek Hill one. Maybe in the long term, you're better off moving on. But now you release Bradley Chubb too. I mean, I get the Dolphins aren't in contention, but god damn, you're just getting rid of everybody. You got to at least have somebody on the team, at least a veteran to help with the rebuild. And rebuild's kind of the direction you're going, but at least have a veteran or 2 that can help mentor some of the younger players in the rebuild. I mean, you just got rid of 2 of your key players in one day. It's like, I mean, come on. You got to at least have a veteran or 2 there to help to mentor the younger guys and for leadership purposes. So I really got to, now, to be fair, it's only February. We don't know what's going to happen in free agency in the draft, but I really got to question where the Dolphins are going with this because this is not a good move. I get the Tyreek Hill one, but then when you follow that up or releasing another one of your veterans, it's like, what are you guys doing over there? And considering how they poorly handled Tua's concussion, how they botched the acquisition of Tyreek Hill, having Jalen Waddle there, botched Jalen Ramsey. It's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt based off recent history. So I'm not giving them much. And you got Tyreek Hill better fit for Eagles, Patriots, Bills, or Ravens. Personally, I don't really want him on the Eagles because we got other issues as a team to worry about. Tight end room. All 3 tight ends are hitting the market. Offensive line. What are we doing there? What's going to happen with the A.J. Brown saga? Do you really want to bring in Tyreek Hill? At this point, nah. I mean, he would be a better fit, I mean, short-term wise for a team like the Patriots, Bills, or Ravens, if one of those 3 teams decide to bring him in, but we'll have to see about that one. So that's that right there. But back to the NBA side, basketball side of it. We're going to talk about Chris Paul retired. What an anticlimactic way to go out, man. I mean, all players got to retire at some point, one way or another. But the way Chris Paul just retired was in such anticlimactic fashion. I mean, people said that Michael Jordan's farewell with the Wizards was anticlimactic. But at least with Michael Jordan, he still played a full first season he got injured, but then the final season he actually played the full season and still got to participate in the final game and kind of got a cool little send-off in Philly in that game against the Sixers. Or at least, even the Sixers fans still showed their respect to Jordan that night. Or even Paul Pierce's final game at TD Garden. The Clippers called a timeout. Pierce walked off the court and got a standing ovation from the crowd. Went over to Doc, I mean, yeah, went over to Doc Rivers. Rivers gave him the hug. That was at least a respectable farewell. But Chris Paul didn't even get to have a farewell game. Or he at least, I mean, I know at this point in his career he wasn't playing as much, but he didn't even get a farewell game where he could just come in fourth quarter, send him to the free throw line, let him make the shots, call a timeout, let him wave to the crowd as he walks away. Not even that. They gave him nothing. I mean, I get at this point in his career, look, Chris Paul wasn't in his peak anymore. He was kind of just there as an eyeball to sell tickets. And the Clippers, I kind of get why the Clippers released him. I guess, I mean, the Clippers knew what they had with Chris Paul leadership-wise, but I think from the Clippers' point of view, they didn't want the being hard on teammates because he wasn't at the same level that he used to be. Like, to me, the thing is with that style leadership, that Jordan, Kobe, Chris Paul style leadership is, that works when you're at the top of your game. But if you're not at the top of your game, that style doesn't really work. Like, you actually got to be at the top of your game to lead in that what type of way to push your teammates. But Chris Paul, at this point in his career, wasn't doing it. I guess the Clippers didn't want him. But when you see what the Clippers have done in recent months, particularly the trade deadline, it's like, first off, why did you even bring in Chris Paul just to get rid of him? I mean, I know him and Tyronn Lue weren't on the same page, but let's be honest. How much longer are you going to keep Tyronn Lue if you're the Clippers? I mean, at this point, you went with the coach over the player in the short term, but in the long term, you're ultimately, it's not going to be too much longer before Tyronn Lue's out the door the way things are going. But no, this is kind of off subject though, but he had that. He got picked up by the Raptors only to get waived. I mean, come on, man. At least let Chris Paul play a game and let him at least get a farewell shot in before waiving him. But it just didn't happen. But to be fair, through all that smoke and mirrors, Chris Paul himself had a phenomenal career. Top 5 point guard of all time. Like I said, I still would have Magic Johnson number 1, Steph Curry 2, Oscar Robertson 3. Kind of go You could either go Jason Kidd 10th. I would go Jason Kidd 4, Chris Paul 5, and then John Stockton 6 for all-time point guard. So I got him as a top 5 all-time point guard, but so that's where I got him. Top 5 all-time point guards. So salute to CP3, but let's talk about his career a little bit, how the CP3 effect. So he went to the New Orleans Hornets, now Pelicans, in 2005, a team that at the time had nothing going. They were the OKC Hornets for this first couple of years there when they had to relocate due to Katrina, which had a big domino effect on the league later on when ticket sales were doing well in OKC. But so he goes there for a few years. In the late 2000s, they become a playoff team. They struggle to get over the playoffs, but they do make it there a few times. And then, so he goes from there. Then eventually, and T3, I'll get to your comment in a second. So he goes there. Then he goes to the Clippers, and he gets, first after that Kobe trade was rejected by Stern, he got the trade to the Clippers, and the Clippers became relevant for the first time in their franchise's history with Chris Paul. Because prior to that, they may have had a few one-offs where they made the playoffs, only to go back to being a laughingstock the next year. But for the first time in Los Angeles Clippers history, they're relevant. They made the playoffs repeatedly. They didn't get very far. They get second round was their ceiling, but they consistently made the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. And Chris Paul was the main guy, so he obviously had a positive effect on that team. You had that fun Lob City trio with him, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, who were a fun trio. And that was, so he got a positive effect there. He won an All-Star Game MVP. Then he went to the Rockets for a few years. His first years, the big what could have been when he got injured in the conference finals against the Warriors. I mean, maybe if that injury doesn't happen, maybe they do upset the Warriors and maybe they play LeBron's Cavs in the finals and history's different. But hey, unfortunately, the injury happened at the worst time possible, and it played out how it did. Then that was kind of around the time CP3 as a player, that was when he started to bounce around a little bit more. But to be fair, he did go to the Phoenix Suns and did help them reach the NBA Finals in 2021, along with Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton. He was there for a few years. Then he bounced around with the Spurs. First the Warriors for a year, then the Spurs. And now so in the short term, CP3 helped majority of the teams he went to become better. But in the long term, as T3 said, Chris couldn't stop meddling in coach, staff, and front office. Other players said CP3 thinks he's smarter than everyone. And that did play a role in the long term in him getting ousted from different teams. That's part of the reason he went from the Hornets, now Pelicans, on to the Clippers, then to the Rockets, and 1 year with the Thunder, just because that was part of the trade when the Thunder decided blow it up, get rid of Russ. They got a few draft picks and Chris Paul to help, but to be fair, the Thunder kind of brought him in with okay, he's here short term to help mentor the younger players. And to some degree he did, but at the same time, as big as weaknesses, sometimes he seems to think he's the smartest person in the room, and that's when he goes too far with his approach. And in times it's gotten him pushed, he's chased himself out of town several times because of it. So there is that side of it too. But this is all, to be fair, this whole, it's time to talk about both the good and the bad. We can learn from Chris Paul both the good and the bad. Learn how he helped from the good of him making teams better. Learn from the way he led by making the teams better. Using his leadership prowess to make the Pelicans, the Clippers, the Suns better. He helped lead the Suns to a finals. You don't think Devin Booker benefited from that? He most certainly did. And now this year, he's leading the way for the Suns. They're doing a lot better than expected. So I do think CP3 played a role in that. That's the good. But also, be careful when you're a leader, not to let your ego get in the way. And unfortunately, a lot of people, not just in sports, but all walks of life, let that ego get in the way. And to T3's point, Chris Paul did do that a lot. He did let his ego get in the way, and sometimes that was his worst enemy too. On top of all the, being a phenomenal player, being a top 5 point guard, he did have that issue. And Chris Paul was good for centers like Tyson Chandler, DeAndre Ayton, Jordan, and Blake Griffin. Yeah, absolutely. And he was excellent for teams in the short term. When he would come in, he would instantly make the team around him better, and he was excellent in that role. But also, to your point, in the long term, that ego led to him leaving teams. So I would say this, Chris Paul was probably the greatest short-term asset for a team in NBA history. I'll say that. You can argue maybe there was another guy or two, but Chris Paul was definitely the greatest short-term asset. Although in the long term, he became a headache, and so that's part of his legacy. But we learn from both the good and the bad. If you're going to go make an impact, make the positive impact when you go to a new place, make everyone around you better, make the team better. But also, be careful not to let your ego get in the way and think that you're automatically the most special person in the room. But to Chris Paul, man, he did have a great career. And I do think he would make a excellent analyst in a year or so now that he gets out of the competitor mode. I mean, he could make a good analyst. Now, maybe, with we said, talking about the ego side of it, that might be the one red flag against him as an analyst. But outside of that, his charisma, his knowledge of the game would certainly help from an analytical standpoint. Although his ego would probably be the one thing that would be a bit questionable. But, hey, man, Chris Paul, thanks for a great career. It was a pleasure to watch you play, and best of luck in your future endeavors. Now, we're going to talk about NBA All-Star Weekend a little bit. Yep, hey. But to be fair, as far as the ego part goes, let's face it, a lot of celebrities, it don't matter if an athlete, entertainer, whether it's singer, actor, in social media influencer, a lot of these celebrities have some degree of ego because especially the ones who are treated like, as Blaze would say, kings and queens their whole lives. A lot of them do have a big ego about them. But trust me, you can name any all-time great player. They all to some degree had an ego. LeBron, Kobe, MJ, Larry Bird, Magic, I'm sure had some ego too. The guys today, I'm sure Luka just does. Jokic even to some degree. Come on, Anthony Edwards does. All these guys to some degree have an ego about them. But that's just part of the territory that comes with being a top-level performer in any industry, period. But hey, man, now Chris Paul, like I said, for OKC, like I said, he was there on a short-term deal to help mentor some of the younger players for the rebuild, and it certainly worked to some degree. It did. He didn't really see the results right away, but I'm sure over time, guys like SGA picked up on knowledge from CP that he still uses to this day. So in the long term, he did have some degree of positive influence on them. But now moving on to the NBA All-Star Weekend itself. So we start off to talk a little bit about the Rising Stars Challenge. VJ Edgecombe was the guy who shined in it. He came out there and he won the Rising Stars MVP. And now he's so he scored 17 points in that game and won the Rising Stars MVP, which is just continuing. Hey, it's continuing that upward trend of VJ Edgecombe for our team, the Sixers. So, but there's a fun fact I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to have to mute it real quickly. So there was that right there. So VJ Edgecombe joins Andre Iguodala and Allen Iverson as the only Sixers to win the Rising Stars MVP. So continues the upward trajectory of VJ Edgecombe. He's been on the cover of Slam with Tyrese Maxey. Now he wins the Rising Stars MVP. And he worked with Vince Carter a little bit. So the ceiling looks bright for VJ Edgecombe going forward. So as a Sixers fan, I'm happy with that. Maybe some of you guys may have seen a player from your team that you were impressed with from the game. But hey, to me, it is what it is. Then, like we said, the slam dunk contest, I talked about that earlier, so we'll skip over it. But then the three-point shootout. I didn't agree with Dame being in the contest because he hasn't played a game all season. But to be fair, he went out there and won that contest and shows he can still shoot the rock at three. And Damian Lillard edged out Devin Booker. So congrats to Damian Lillard on winning it and proving that he still has what it takes at three. Put aside how I felt. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but you know what? He went out there and had an excellent performance, and he earned that three-point contest victory. So salute to Dame for still. Only thing we were robbed of seeing Steph Curry in it because of injury. It would have been nice to see Steph, Dame, and Devin Booker all give it a go, but hey, such is life. You can't always have every player in it. That's the one con to All-Star Weekend falling during the middle of the season. You're going to have those players out with injury. They're going to miss out on the festivities, but that's just an accepted part of the weekend, though. But either way, congratulations to Damian Lillard on winning that contest. And this will help draw some intrigue for when he does officially return. So, looking forward to seeing it. So that was kind of cool right there. We had the Shooting Stars Challenge. We had the Shooting Skills Challenge. Team Knicks won that. You had Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, coached by New York Knicks three-point shooting star Allen Houston. That was a nice little fun contest. But then as far as the All-Star Weekend itself goes, this formula they did, the Team USA Stars versus the World. Winner plays Team USA Stripes. The more established star names such as LeBron, KD, and then company. That was kind of cool. It was something a little different. And I noticed one thing I'll say about this. I could see that the USA Stars like Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, and those guys, De'Aaron Fox, they went into this hungry, particularly the final round after they beat the World, and which ended up being a good contest, mind you. Then you actually went out there and they went in there and they were hungry to win, to knock off the veterans, and you could see it. And they were down 4 late, but Anthony Edwards hits the 2 that puts them close. And then De'Aaron Fox knocks down the winner. And you're right. But that's a good nod to the young stars there. Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, De'Aaron Fox and company. They actually went out there and they proved themselves, because first they went out there and beat the World. They went out there against Wemby, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Luka. I mean, Luka only played 5 minutes, but you had Pascal Siakam. All these guys at least got some playing time. And you got, let's not forget, of course, you got Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Jalen Johnson. These guys went out there. Scotty Barnes with 5 boards against the World. These guys went out there and played, and they ended up actually, and matter of fact, let's take a look at the score chart real quickly. So let's take a look at the Stars in that first game. CC 37-35 over the World. You had Cunningham. He had 4 points, but he had 3 steals as well. You had only 5 points for Booker, 4 assists, though. Duren had 2, but he had 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And you had Tyrese Maxey had 4 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. So Anthony Edwards, obviously he outshined everyone in points total, but you even see a guy like Maxey and Cunningham. It was the steals, the rebounds, the assists that those guys did that contributed to the team. Hey, Scotty Barnes got 5 boards, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. So all these guys, a lot of these players outside of Anthony Edwards, it was the little things they did, like the rebounds, the assists, the steals that helped out in that game. May not be the flashiest on the stat board, but it plays a role. We take a look. We had the Stripes and Stars. We had first go around. We had Team USA Stripes beat the Stars. It was LeBron, Kawhi, Durant and them. Oh, hold on a second. It's trying to share that with you guys. Hold on. All right, let's redo this. Let's see if it'll share this time. Trying to scroll down. It's not really it's not collaborating with me. Let's give this. All right, hold on 1 second, folks. Let's see if I can share it. Hold on. All right, let's take a look at. In this one, you had All-Star Championship, Team USA Stars. You had Devin Booker at 5, Jalen Duren. Hold on a second. I'm going to try to see if I can get this thing to work. Or I'm going to try to find another source to show you guys the stats, and we'll look at it that way. Because probably try NBA.com or ESPN. Maybe it'll work better. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm still going to try to share it with you guys. Just give me this. You could see in that final round, the Stars were motivated. They went out there and they did all they could do right there. They went out there and they took that game from them. So in that regard, it was good because at least guys like Maxey and those guys were motivated. All right, loading time's going really slow for this, so I'm not going to show with you. Now, I will say this. It was better than what the All-Star games itself were turning into in recent years, where you had full games, where both teams were just, where all the players were just going out there, basically playing a free shoot-around, just trying to get their highlight shot for SportsCenter and playing no defense at all. At least in this go-around, you had at least some players playing. You saw the European players in the world. They were out there motivated. The younger stars were particularly motivated to make a name for themselves and beat the veterans and the big draws like the LeBrons and the Kevin Durant. So that was nice right there. So this formula, it's better than what the All-Star game had become in recent years. So I'll give it that. So All-Star weekend as a whole, it was all right. You had some fun from it. Dame winning the three-point shootout was cool. The All-Star little tournament itself was all right. As a Sixers fan, I enjoyed VJ Edgecombe winning the MVP for the Rising Stars Challenge. So it was an okay little weekend. Just a little break from, it's certainly better than the Pro Bowl. But it was an okay little weekend just to mix it up a little bit, do something different, get to see something different as a fan. And so there's that. And then they'll return to the games later this week. And because we were on the All-Star break last week, really isn't anything big to talk about as far as teams go. We talked about the trade deadline last week. We're not really going to see how efficient most of the teams are until we come back from the All-Star break. So what we're going to do on this one is going to take a short break. Then I'm going to revisit an old series I did last year, and where I did a YouTube series, top 5 greatest players for each NBA team. I'm going to revisit that, give you my thoughts on that. You guys are welcome to comment on that as well. So after a short break, that'll be up. So stay tuned, folks. All right, everyone. After a quick break, we're back at it again. So, like I said, as promised, going to revisit an old series I did last year. Now, this series was the top 5 greatest players in each NBA team. So, I'm going to do that right there. I remember I did this last year, right around after the Super Bowl. So we're about at the one your point of it. So we're going to go through it, revisit. You guys can follow along. So when I did this series last year at first, here's the big asterisk, if you will. For each team, for the entire series, I only used the player one time for the series. So, for example, I used LeBron James as the greatest Cavs of all time. And I only used him that one time throughout the entire series. So that tweaked up some of the list a bit. Like for Shaq, I had to think about it for a second. I used him as one of the best Lakers of all time. But I'm going to revisit it. This time around, I'm going to remove that and actually include guys multiple times. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play this right. I'm going to go through the description box, read you some honorable mentions, and give you kind of my revised list. So for the top 5 Atlanta Hawks, pretty much this is probably going to stay in put. I put Trae Young as an honorable mention. At the time I did this, I said that Trae's an honorable mention because he hadn't done enough to reach the top 5. And now that he's been traded a year later, he's still on that honorable mention. Spud Webb, still kind of in that honorable mention. And then top 5, I went with Joe Johnson. You guys remember him from the 2000s. We kind of rolled back a little bit. Lou Hudson, Cliff Hagan, then number 2, Dominique, and then Bob Piettit from the 70s teams during their St. Louis Hawks days. So you notice some of these players go back a little bit earlier to the 70s era of the Hawks because that was their best time in franchise history. So that's why we got a majority of the players there. So there's not much to change there now. The Celtics one's going to be a little interesting because, again, I said I was only using a certain player once. So I used KG as the greatest T-Wolf. I used Ray Allen as a great Buck. But now I'm going to revisit that list with them included. So we got honorable mentions. We still got Rondo, McHale, Jaylen Brown, Antoine Walker still fit the honorable mention nod. But I will add Ray Allen as an honorable mention in this little revised version as an honorable mention. So there we go there. So I'll use Ray Allen in this revised version. And then you got, I'm thinking, I'll put KG or Tatum. I'll give Tatum the nod for top 5 because he's been there longer. And I'll go KG and then Tatum as an honorable mention. So I'll go KG 5, but because guys like Robert Parrish, Paul Pierce, Bill Russell, and Larry Bird had longer tenures, I'll include those guys. I went with Larry Bird, number 1, because Russell, with all due respect to him, but Larry Bird played in a stronger era, so I'll give the nod to Larry Bird as the greatest Celtic of all time. I put Tatum in honorable mention, put KG in this revised where I'm using players more than once. So that would be my revised list to include honorable mentions: Rajon Rondo, Kevin McHale, Jaylen Brown, Ray Allen, Antoine Walker, and Jason Tatum. Number 5, Kevin Garnett. 4, Robert Parrish. He gets the nod for longevity. Paul Pierce, Bill Russell, and then Larry Bird, number 1, because Bird played during the stronger era, so I'll give him the slight nod over Bill Russell there. So now moving right along to the next one in this playlist, the top 5 Brooklyn/New Jersey Nets of all time. So I'm going to reshare it with you guys. Here we go. So top 5 greatest Nets of all time. Start off with some honorable mentions. Richard Jefferson and Drazen Petrovic. They'll be honorable mention. Drazen Petrovic, he was a good player. He was on the breakout of becoming that first international star, but then unfortunately he passed in a car crash while he was still active. So he wasn't there long enough to truly make it. And I'll go, in this one, I'll go now because I'm doing a revised. I'll consider Dr. J where he ranks among them. Give me 1 second. I'll still go Jason Kidd as the best because he was the, he made the most impact during his time there. I'll go, in this case, I'll go then Brooke Lopez, honorable mention. Number 5, Kenya Martin Sr. Number 4, Derek Coleman. Number 3, Buck Williams. Number 2, Dr. J. Julius Erving. And Jason Kidd, number 1. So that's where I'm going with this top 5 Nets revitalized list. So moving right along, now we're on to the Charlotte Hornets. So for the Charlotte Hornets, what I'm doing is I'm counting the original run and their current run as the Hornets. So I go from the original expansion Charlotte Hornets to the season before they relocated to New Orleans. Then the 04 expansion Bobcats to present because they own the rights to the entire franchise history when they're in Charlotte. So for that, this list is pretty straightforward. Honorable mentions, you got Del Curry, David West. I'll go Alonzo Mourning as an honorable mention, only because his tenure was shorter in Charlotte, whereas Miami had a longer tenure. And then I'll go number 5, Gerald Wallace. He was like the first somewhat star player during the new Hornets, back when they were the Bobcats. Number 4, LaMelo Ball has made an impact so far on the court individually, but it hasn't generated much team success. Although they've been hot lately, maybe in a year or two we can revitalize this with LaMelo and Con Kneppel. Number 3, I'll go Glenn Rice, one of the better forwards in their franchise, and a kind of somewhat of an underrated name, late 90s, early 2000s. Larry Johnson, number 2. And then, of course, Kemba Walker, number 1, during his tenure there as the greatest Hornet/Bobcat in their franchise's history. And now we're going to move along. Chicago Bulls. This is going to be the interesting one right here. Hold on. Give me 1 second. All right. I just had to stop 1 second. All right. Here we go. Now, this was the greatest Bulls list. So, like I said, I set the terms. I can only use a player once. So, here we go. We got this. My initial list was honorable mention Reggie Theus, Joakim Noah, Zach LaVine. Then I went Artis Gilmore, Horace Grant, Derrick Rose, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan. The revitalized list where I'm using player more than once. Honorable mention, I'll go with Jimmy Butler. And the reason I got him as an honorable mention here is because his last couple years with the Bulls were some of his best. But early in his run with the Bulls, he didn't really do much. It wasn't until those last couple of years in Chicago that Jimmy Butler really got going. And I'm factoring in what the player did for that organization. Jimmy Butler, his tenure with the Bulls specifically wasn't as impactful as, say, Horace or D Rose or Scotty or MJ. So that I'll go swap that out. So I'll also add Artis Gilmore now as an honorable mention. Then I'll go number 5. I'll go Dennis Rodman, because we know he was kind of the catalyst that put that second Chicago Bulls three-peat over the hump and made them the biggest draw, as well as his style of play blended well with what Phil Jackson wanted as a coach. Now, actually, I'll put Horace Grant 5, for his role in that first three-peat, and then Dennis Rodman 4, Derrick Rose 3. It was a short peak, but it was memorable for the time it lasted. And then, obviously, number 2, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, the greatest Bull and considered by many the greatest player of all time. That's pretty obvious right there, but I was considering going with Elton Brand, but he wasn't really there that long. He's more remembered for his tenure with the Clippers than he was the Bulls. So I would include him there. Like I said, Jimmy Butler, he was good toward the end of his run, so I felt that was at least worth an honorable mention. But the first half of his run was kind of bland. I even went with Joakim Noah as an honorable mention. I'll even go Luol Deng as an honorable mention for longevity as well. There's another guy, forgotten the original one. So that's that for my top 5 greatest Bulls. Now we're moving on to Cleveland Cavaliers. We all know who number 1 is on this one. And if you troll and say Brad Daughtry, I'm blocking you from the comments. No, I'm just kidding, but. So here's where I'm going to go. So honorable mentions, I'm still going Zaldrudas Ilgauskas, who was a good role player. He played his role well with the Cavs. He was never a star, but he played his role well. Anderson Vardejo was decent. Kind of go Darius Garland. But also now that I'm including players multiple times, I'm going to tweak it up a little bit here. I'll go with this. I'm going to remove Austin Carr from honorable mention, put Donovan Mitchell at the number 5 spot, and then also include Kevin Love as an honorable mention too for his role in that teams with Kyrie and LeBron during the mid-2010s. So the updated ones, honorable mentions, Ilgauskas, Verdejo, Darius Garland, Austin Carr, and Kevin Love. Number 5, I'll go Donovan Mitchell. I still think he's got a few more years. He can easily work his way up to the number 4 or 3 spot. But as of right now, I got Mitchell number 5. Mark Price, who was kind of the initial Mr. Cavalier, the first real star for the team, at number 4. Kyrie number 3. He was an excellent number 2 with LeBron during those years, during those 3 seasons they played together. Number 2, Brad Daughtry, played a role in making the Cavs a top team in the East in the 90s, but never truly got over the hump. And then number 1, of course, is LeBron James by a mile. So that's right there for top greatest Cavs of all time. But I feel like I had to at least move Mitchell up a year later and give Kevin Love a nod as an honorable mention on that one. So now moving right along, the top 5 Dallas Mavericks of all time. This list is probably going to remain untouched because, so here we go, the top 5 greatest Mavericks of all time. Honorable mentions, I got Brad Davis, Michael Finley, and now though, but with me including players multiple times, this is where it gets a little different. So in this new list, I still keep Brad Davis, Michael Finley as honorable mentions. I'm also going to switch gears, put Jason Terry as an honorable mention, and then put Jason Kidd as an honorable mention, and then number 5, Steve Nash, because he started to break out as a star in Dallas, and then he was a good enough name that the Phoenix Suns were willing to re-sign him in the 2004 offseason. So I'll give Nash the nod because he started to break out on his own in Dallas. Then I'll go number 4, Mark Aguirre, Rolando Blackman 3, Luka 2, and Dirk 1. Dirk obviously gets the nod for the longevity purposes. Luka dominated for the time he played, but then he got traded to the Lakers. And he's been a little over a year since. So I got to give the nod to Dirk, both longevity and because that great playoff run in 2011, bringing the Mavs their only championship to date. And after what happened last year, it looks like it's going to be a while before that changes. So this list is probably going to be up to the revitalized list now, including Jason Kidd and Steve Nash, who I used on other lists. Because like I said, just to reiterate, it's now updated honorable mentions, Brad Davis, Michael Finley, Jason Terry, and Jason Kidd. I'll go Nash 5, Aguirre 4, Blackman 3, Luka 2, Dirk 1. So that's the updated one there. Now, so the next one, we're going to move right along. Again, this is all in alphabetical order. Denver Nuggets, pretty much probably keeping this list the same. I doubt there's going to be any tweaks to this one because honorable mention. Oh, wait, there will be one tweak. Honorable mentions go Nene, Muhammad Abdul-Rauf, Michael Porter Jr., and I'll actually add Chauncey Billups as an honorable mention too. I initially did him in only the Pistons list, but with this revitalized, I'll put Chauncey Billups for his role in leading the Nuggets to the conference finals in 2009. But that was the only real season he made an impact, so that's why he's only an honorable mention. And I also put Allen Iverson as an honorable mention because during that tenure, he did make them exciting to watch. They didn't really do anything playoff time, but they were fun to watch, so Iverson at least gets a nod for that. Then I go David Thompson, number 5. Dikembe Mutombo, number 4. I only put him at number 4 because longevity-wise, he wasn't there that long. I'll put Carmelo 3. Alex English 2 for longevity purposes because English pretty much played his entire career there. Was one of those good scorers. But, that he played a role in the Nuggets reaching the conference finals in the 80s. Then, of course, number 1 by a mile, Nikola Jokic. It's not even close. I mean, clearly Jokic, 3-time regular season MVP, finals MVP, led them to their only finals appearance and win to date. Clearly the number 1. So that list pretty much remains the same, except just a few honorable mention tweaks. Now the Detroit Pistons. It's going to be an interesting one. I will say this. I think this year there's going to be a tweak here with this. So for this one, honorable mentions, Vinnie Johnson stays in there. He was from that bad boy Pistons era. He was a good role player for them. Ben Wallace, a dominant defensive player. I'll keep him on here, but he didn't have the greatest offensive presence, even compared to some of these other guys on this list. So that's why Big Ben Wallace only gets the honorable mention. But his defense did play a key role in that 04 team, so he at least gets that. I'll still keep Jerry Stackhouse and Grant Hill as honorable mentions. I might do a slight tweak. I'll move Cade up to the number 5 because of the season he's having this year. But this is like his first great season, so I can only move him to number 5. Maybe in a few years I can move him up this list. But as of now, I'll move Rip Hamilton to honorable mention and Cade Cunningham to the 5 spot. Chauncey Billups for the championship ring and the experience factor is still number 4 at the moment. They'll go Bill Laimbeer, number 3, who is pretty much the enforcer on that bad boy Pistons. But wait, honorable mention. Dennis Rodman, too, because he played a key role in that. He wasn't as impactful as Laimbeer or Chauncey Billups or the 2-1, but Rodman was still a key role player in that. So I got to give Rodman the honorable mention for his bad boy Pistons tenure. And then back to the list. I still got Laimbeer 3, kind of the enforcer of the team. And then, of course, number 2, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, the best 1-2 backcourt of the late 80s into the early 90s. Of course, Isaiah Thomas. It's quality over quantity. He had the best run of any player in Pistons franchise history. So wait, oops. Oh, crap. So he's still, all right, I hit the wrong button by mistake. Don't worry. Now we're back. And now moving on, the Golden State Warriors. Now, for this one, just a heads up, I'm factoring in this. Originally, the Golden State Warriors were the Philadelphia Warriors. Then they relocated. Then the Syracuse Nationals became the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's going to factor in this one. So let's go with it. Some honorable mentions, of course, Draymond Green. He's for longevity purposes. So I put him there. Rick Barry goes number 3. Or no, honorable mention. Chris Mullin, Jason Richardson. Then we're going to tweak it up because I'm using players multiple times. Guy Rogers now goes honorable mention. Number 5, Klay Thompson. Number 4, Paul Arizine. Number 3, Kevin Durant. 2, Wilt Chamberlain. And then Steph Curry, number 1. I got Curry over Chamberlain for longevity purposes. And Chamberlain, sorry, Sixers fan media, despite your attempt to rewrite history, that 100-point game came when he was a member of the Philadelphia Warriors, which are the same team as the Golden State Warriors. Sorry about that. But ironically, Chamberlain was actually traded from the Warriors to the Sixers after they relocated from Syracuse to Philly. But longevity in the 4 championships, I go Steph number 1. So that revitalized it's KD 3, 4 Paul Arizin, 5 Clay, and then Guy Rogers gets pushed to honorable mention. Oh, another honorable mention's Baron Davis. So I'll count him as an honorable mention too So that's that revitalized Warriors. Now moving on to the Houston Rockets. Ooh, this is going to be interesting right here. So some honorable mentions. Here we got Kenny the Jet Smith as an honorable mention, who was certainly a fun impact player during his time there. Then I go PJ Tucker, Otis Thorpe, Calvin Murphy. I'm going to go with Chris Paul as an honorable mention, but I'm only putting him as an honorable mention because he was only there for 2 seasons. And then I'm going to add Steve Francis as an honorable mention and put Tracy McGrady number 5, Yao Ming 4, Ralph Sampson 3, James Harden 2 for longevity and having an MVP. Then, of course, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, the greatest Houston Rocket of all time. Now, put Amen Thompson as an honorable mention, but, you know, KD, it's only his first season there, so I can't put him on this list yet. So that revitalized list is going to be Amen, honorable mention, Kenny the Jet, PJ, Otis Thorpe, Calvin Murphy, Chris Paul because he was only there 2 seasons, Steve Francis. Then I'll go T-Mac because T-Mac had more of an impact in terms of getting the Rockets to the playoffs than Steve Francis. Then Yao 4, Ralph 3, Harden 2, Hakeem 1. So that's it for the Houston Rockets. Now on to the next one with this. Ooh, Indiana Pacers. So I already know there's going to be a slight tweak going on right here. Let's see. So Indiana Pacers. So we're going to honorable mentions. This is where we tweak it up. We go Lance Stevenson, Paul George, Rick Smith, and Tyrese Halliburton for that run, leading the Pacers to the finals. Now, if he comes back healthy and leads into another big run, then Halliburton would work his way up into the top 5 list. But as of now, just got him as an honorable mention. Now on to the actual list itself. This stays the same. Jermaine O'Neal, number 5, one of the underrated centers of the 2000s. He played a key role in them staying in contention. Made the All-Star game every year he was there. And he was definitely, his best years were on that Pacers team. So, yeah, number 4, 3, and 2. This all comes from their ABA days. George McGinnis, Roger Brown, Mel Daniels, all in their own rights. Dominant players for them. And then, of course, number 1, Reggie Miller. No questions asked. The most notable player in Pacers franchise history. Their biggest star. The guy that people will always know in Indiana. So we got him there. Now, moving on, top 5 LA Lakers of all time. Oh, this is going to be a loaded list, folks. A loaded list. Let's get into it. Honorable mentions. Still got James Worthy, Michael Cooper, Pau Gasol, Elgin Baylor. Added honorable mentions because I only used each player once. So now some added honorable mentions to this. You got, of course, along with them, you got Luka now as an added honorable mention, but he's only been there a season, so can only put him there. LeBron, of course, he led him to a finals win, has led him to the playoffs all but one season, won a finals in 2020, but these other guys had more longevity with the Lakers, so I put them ahead. And then I'm sure there's like 1 or 2 other honorable mentions that I'm not thinking of. Vlade Divac, there's an honorable mention, who had some of his best seasons with the Lakers before the infamous 96 draft day trade, which brought Kobe Bean Bryant, the greatest Laker, to the Lakers. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's probably a few I'm going to forget too, just because there's been so many players that have taken the ride with the Lakers. And no, Dwight Howard's not going to be on there. And I was thinking about Ron Artest, maybe, I don't know. Anthony Davis has an honorable mention too, because when he was healthy, he could help. And he did play a role in that bubble championship, so I got to give AD at least an honorable mention. Now on to the actual top 5 itself. I'll keep the same. Jerry West, I still got him as number 5, one of those original greats for the Lakers. And then after that, I put Shaq number 4 because of how dominant he was during his tenure. But the other 3 guys I got ahead of him simply for longevity purposes. That's Magic Johnson, considered the greatest point guard of all time. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who, if he has a case for the GOAT, and kind of an underrated case, the original all-time scoring leader before LeBron passed it. And then I'll go Kobe Bryant number 1. Some of you guys might disagree with the order of those 3. Some of you might put Magic over Kareem. Some of you might put Magic as the greatest Laker. You guys are more than welcome to debate that if you want to. And then, of course, we got Greg commented. Byron Scott. Let's not forget about that. Byron Scott's another one. And, while we're on that subject, another one that came to mind. Robert Horry. He was a key role player in that three-peat in the early 2000s with Kobe and Shaq. So Byron Scott and Robert Horry are good honorable mentions too. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. And now moving right along, speaking of Pau Gasol, now we're going to take Pau Gasol. And now we move on to the Memphis Grizzlies. Pau Gasol's initial team before he was acquired in that infamous 08 trade. So you got honorable mentions, keeping Bryant Reeves, Tony Allen in there. Now, here's where it gets revitalized. I'm going to go Sharif Abdul-Rahim as an honorable mention. Then I'll go Mike Conley number 5. He was there longer, but quality over quantity purposes, he's only number 5. Number 4, Ja Morant. And then I'm going to go number 3, Zach Randolph. Number 2, Pau Gasol, who was there, that led them to the playoffs for their first time in franchise history. He was their first round pick in 2001. And he'll play a key role in establishing the Memphis Grizzlies and building a good enough reputation where the Lakers made the trade. And then number 1, I go with Marc Gasol over Pau for longevity purposes. Because Marc Gasol was truly the most dominant player in Grizzlies franchise history. And again, I'm factoring in what they did with that organization. So some of Pau's best years are considered with the Lakers, but he only gets the honorable mention because there's been so many Laker greats that some people pass him. But I'll give Mark the nod because his best years were with the Grizzlies, whereas Pau, he was good with the Grizzlies, but his best year was with the Lakers. So I'm going to give the nod to Marc Gasol, still the greatest Grizzly of all time. Now moving on to the Miami Heat. I think you guys already know who number 1 and number 2 are. There's no debating this one. Let's get into it. Honorable mentions. I still got Bam, Udonis, Mario Chambers, and now I'm going to add Tyler Hero to the honorable mentions list as well. And now I'm actually going to go, this is where I tweak it up. I'm actually going to go Tim Hardaway Sr. in honorable mention. I'm still going to go with Jimmy Butler number 5 because he did lead the Heat to 2 finals runs when they were underdogs. Both times they made it that far. So I got to give Jimmy Butler the nod there. Now, actually, I'm going to go Chris Bosh 5 and give Jimmy Butler the 4 because as great as Bosh was, he was a great number 3 guy, but he was a number 3 guy. Jimmy was the lead guy both times the Heat made the finals. So I'm going to give Jimmy Butler the nod as the number 4 and go Chris Bosh number 3, Tim Hardaway Sr. an honorable mention, and add Tyler Hero to that. Then number 3 is going to be Alonzo Mourning like the first superstar in the Heat's franchise history. And then number 2, with that asterisk being removed, LeBron James goes number 2. Now, he led them to 4 straight finals during 4 seasons, but Dwayne Wade was there longer, and he led them to a finals and a finals MVP before LeBron arrived. So I'll give LeBron the 2 nod, Dwayne Wade the number 1 for longevity purposes. So that's going to be my revitalized list there for the Miami Heat. And now this is where we start. I got the top 5 Milwaukee Bucks. This is where we start to get these lists somewhat revitalized. So the Bucks, this is going to be kind of an interesting one. We got honorable mentions. I'll still go Chris Middleton, Michael Redd, Andrew Bogut, all right, decent. But then I also had Drew Holiday as an honorable mention too, because Drew Holiday played a key role in them as well. But now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now, there is one player that wasn't initially included on this that I'm going to include now. So I'm actually going to knock Ray Allen down to the honorable mentions. Go Bob Dandridge, number 5. Number 4, Sidney Moncroft. Marquise Johnson, 3. Giannis, 2. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 1. Because Kareem solidified himself as a top player both with the Bucks and the Lakers. He was already a top player and a force to be reckoned with before he went to the Lakers. So I'm going to tweak that up, go with Kareem number 1, and then go Marquise Johnson Giannis 2, Johnson 3, and knock Ray Allen down to the honorable mention for that one. And now we're on to the top 5 Minnesota Timberwolves. It's probably... Yeah, I don't think this list is changing at all. This list is pretty much going to remain the same. You got, let's see, honorable mentions. Wally Szczerbiak, decent role player during the early 2000s. Sam Cassell, Andrew Wiggins as honorable mentions. Top 5, Kevin Love, Stephon Marbury, who helped lead the T-Wolves to the playoffs a few times and was an all-star during that tenure. Then I'll go Karl Anthony Towns, 3, longevity over Marbury. Number 2, Anthony Edwards. And then still Kevin Garnett, the greatest Minnesota Timberwolf of all time. That list is staying the same. I'm not touching that list. So moving on to the next team. New Orleans Pelicans. This is going to go from when the Hornets relocated to New Orleans. So that first season they were there to present. So there's going to be one tweak. Initially, I had no honorable mentions on this. No, actually, I don't have. So there's no honorable. Oh, wait, I'm going to have a tweak. I'm going to move Brandon Ingram to honorable mentions. Number 5, Jamal Mashburn. Number 4 is going to be Zion, then David West, who was there during the initial years in New Orleans. Number 2, Anthony Davis. Number 1, Chris Paul. So that's going to be the tweaked up list. So Chris Paul stands as the greatest Pelican and the greatest of another team of all time. I think you know which team that is. And we're going to get to that team in just a few more. But moving right along. Now, the New York Knicks. This one, there's actually going to be a few tweaks to this one, which I updated the description by. Give me one sec. All right, here we go. Quick fix, guys. We got it ready. Now on to the. Let's see. We got. Greg also wanted to point out Terry Cummings, too, for the Pelicans, who was another pretty good player as well. So there's another name in there. Shout out to Greg for that one. Now, moving on. Honorable mentions. We got Charles Oakley, Allen Houston. I'm going to add Larry Johnson to this list, too, for honorable mentions. And Jalen Brunson, I'm going to now tweak it up. I'm going to put I'm still going to go with Jalen Brunson as an honorable mention. I'll say this, though. If Jalen Brunson leads a finals run this year, win or lose, and he's automatically going in the top 5 and it's getting tweaked. But I'll keep that as an L. Add Larry Johnson as an honorable mention. And add Carmelo Anthony as an honorable. I'll go Earl Monroe, honorable mention. Number 5, Carmelo Anthony. Number 4, Bernard King. Willis Reed, 3. Walt Clyde Frazier, 2. And number 1, Patrick Ewing for longevity purposes. While Reed and Frazier did win a championship, I'm still going to give Ewing that nod as the greatest Knick of all time. So there it is. So updated Oakley, Houston, Monroe. I'll go Carmelo actually as an honorable mention and go Brunson 5 because Brunson actually made the Knicks contenders. Whereas Carmelo was a good player, but he never truly made the Knicks contenders. So I'll go there. So I'll go Brunson 5, Monroe, Anthony as honorable mentions, 4 Bernard King, Willis Reed, Walt Clyde Frazier, and Patrick Ewing as the updated list there. Now we're on to the Los Angeles Clippers, which this list is pretty much. All right, I'll do one honorable mention. I'm going to add an honorable mention. Other than that, this list is pretty much remaining the same. Honorable mentions, I go Lou Williams, Chris Kaman, James Harden. Top 5 pretty much keeping the same. DeAndre Jordan, Danny Manning, who played most of his career there, had a pretty solid run, but didn't have a supporting cast around him. But individually, he shined. You also got Elton Brand, too. Same deal. Individually shined, but didn't have much of a team around him. Had his peak wasted. Then I'll go Blake Griffin because for draw purposes and star power purposes. And then, of course, Chris Paul because he had that instant effect where he made the Clippers relevant. So that list is mostly the same. Oh, and also I will add Kawhi as an honorable mention too. So Kawhi, James Harden will get the honorable, and Paul George. I'll give those guys honorable mentions, but to be fair, Kawhi and Paul George didn't really live up to the hype, so it's kind of hard to put them on there. And now moving on to Arku's team, OKC Thunder / Seattle Supersonics. So I am going to, let's see. So for this list, some honorable mentions. I go Jack Sigma from the Sonics teams, late 70s, early 80s. Then you got Serge Ibaka from the Thunder. He was an excellent big man alongside KD, Russ. For honorable mentions as well, I will include, well, I'm going to tweak that list up, FYI. So you're going to see the 5 and 4 going to be tweaked. I will add Rashad Lewis as an honorable mention. He was kind of like one of those first really good shooting power forwards of the 21st century. So I'll give him the nod there. And then for the actual list itself, we're going to include number 5, Sean Kemp. Number 4, SGA. That double MVP season moves him up. But Russ, Gary Payton, and Kevin Durant still get the nod for longevity. But make no mistake, a few years from now, SGA will certainly work his way up that list, possibly to the greatest OKC Thunder / Seattle Supersonic of all time. But as of now, so we got the revitalized Sigma, Serge Ibaka, add Rashad Lewis as honorable mention, Sean Kemp 5, SGA 4, Russ 3, Gary Payton 2, Kevin Durant, still the greatest at the moment. And now moving on to my team, the Philadelphia 76ers. So we're going to tweak this one up. So as of right now, we got honorable mentions. We still got Mo Cheeks, Andre Iguodala as honorable mentions. I'm also going to add to that. I'm going to go add to that honorable mention list as well. Kind of iffy because Barkley, where do I put Barkley at? I mean,
I'll put Hal Greer as an honorable mention. Maxey maybe needs another year or two to crack that top 5, but he's on pace to eventually get there, but he's still an honorable mention at the moment for all time. Then I'll put Barkley 5, with Hal Greer moved up to honorable mention. Joel Embiid 4. Now I'll go Moses Malone 4, Embiid 3, Iverson 2, and still Dr. J. Julius serving as the greatest Sixer of all time. I'm keeping that the same. So that's going to stay its place, but so I'm adding Barkley at the 5 spot for greatest Sixers. Now the Orlando Magic. This is, again, I'm going to have to tweak it up because initially I only used Shaq for the Lakers list. Now we're changing it up. I think once you see the list, you'll kind of know where I'm putting him on this one. So as of right now, we'll go honorable mentions. I'll go Paolo Banchero. Move Nick Anderson to honorable mention. Franz Wagner can hit that honorable mention spot. Then I'll go number 5, Nikola Vucevic, because he had some of his best statistical seasons there, and he was the best player on the team. Now, that didn't equate to much team success, but he was valuable there to some degree. Also, honorable mention, Jameer Nelson. There's another guy I forgot from the 2000s runs with Dwight Howard-led teams. So we got there. Number 5, I'll go Vucevic. Number 4, T-Mac. Number 3, I'll go Penny Hardaway. And number 2, I'll go Shaq. Now, you're probably thinking Shaq should be number 1 over Dwight Howard, but the only reason I'm putting Shaq number 2 is because he was only there for 5 seasons, whereas Dwight Howard was there for a longer period of time. Both guys led, respectively, Shaq and Dwight Howard led the Magic to the finals, but I'll give Dwight Howard the nod for longevity because I'm only factoring in what Shaq and Howard did, respectively, with the Magic. Dwight Howard had a longer run in Orlando. Shaq obviously had the better career, but Dwight Howard had the longer run with the Magic. So I'll give it that. Move Vucevic, 5, 4 T-Mac, 3 Hardaway, 2 Shaq, 1 Dwight Howard, because he was with the Magic longer. So that's why. So that's going to be the tweak there. Now on to the top 5 Phoenix Suns. This list is, let me see. It's probably going to need a slight tweak for this one. I'm going to make a slight tweak to this list. So Goran Dragic is still an honorable mention. Paul Westphal. I'll give Kevin Johnson an honorable mention still. Then I'm going to move Walter Davis down to the honorable mention. Put Chris Paul number 5 because of how impactful his run was. He took a Phoenix Sun team that hadn't been to the playoffs for over a decade and led them to the finals his first season there. He was certainly the impact player that got them to the finals. So I'm putting Chris Paul number 5, but only because it was a shorter run. But his impact played a big role in him getting the number 5 spot. Number 4, I'll still keep Devin Booker. Although this year, the way he's playing this year and for longevity, I might give him the nod over Stoudemire because he's still going to have a few more years left. Unless he just somehow gets traded this offseason, which I doubt. I'll probably put then Stoudemire 4, Devin Booker 3. Feel like this year he moves up over Stoudemire. I'll keep Charles Barkley 2. I'm only going to put Barkley 2 because his tenure wasn't as long. And then I'll still go Steve Nash number 1 because his peak, his dominance with the Suns, the second go-around lasted a bit longer than Barkley. So I'll give Steve Nash the nod over Charles Barkley, his greatest Sun of all time, for that reason. So that's going to be the update right there. I'll put CP3, move Walter Davis to honorable mention, put CP3 5, Murray 4, Booker 3, Barkley 2, and Nash number 1. And now on to the Portland Trail Blazers. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I forgot to mention, honorable mention for Houston Rockets, Clyde Drexler, from when he came there and won those chips with Hakeem. He wasn't there long enough to truly be a top 5 Rocket, but he played a key role and was a great number 2 during his time there. So, but back to now the Trailblazers. All-time Blazers, still got honorable mention. I'll go Brandon Roy, CJ McCollum, Ardias Sabonis as honorable mentions. Still going to go number 5, LaMarcus Aldridge. Number 4, Maurice Lewis. I'm actually going to put Bill Walton 3. He won a finals MVP and he dominated, but his run was short. Dame Lillard gets a nod for longevity purposes because individually he stood out. So that's going to be my tweak there. I'll move Walton to 3, Dame to 2, and Clyde Drexler still is the greatest Blazer of all time for longevity purposes. And he did lead them to 2 finals as the lead guy. So he gets the nod there. Now, moving on to Sacramento Kings. You know this list is going to have a lot more retro players than current guys. You got one guy currently who's an honorable mention, but you got honorable mentions, Peja Stojakovic, Mike Bibby, Domantas Sabonis, Nate Arkfeld. Those guys are still there as honorable mentions. Number 5, Mitch Richmond, who had a long run with them, who played a but I give him the nod as number 5 because he was one of the key guys for them. And it was a good player for them, but never truly moved the needle for the Kings. Number 4, DeMarcus Cousins. Dominant peak, but never really had a team around him. So I go number 4, but he deserves a nod. Chris Webber, number 3. He was the lead guy of those early 2000s close but no cigars Kings teams. Number 2, Jerry Lucas. And then number 1, the big O, Oscar Robertson. Because he was with them during their run as the Kansas City Kings. So it still counts. And I'm counting Oscar Robertson as the greatest King of all time. Now, moving on now, the San Antonio Spurs. All right, as of right now, I still got Sean Elliott. I'll put Dennis Rodman as an honorable mention too. I'll go Kawhi as an honorable mention. Bruce Bowen and Wemby as of now. In a year or two, make no mistake, Wemby's going to knock Ginobili into the honorable. No, I'll say. Now, Ginobili's going honorable mention. Wemby, because he's still young and has his future ahead, he's number 5. But he's still in the early stage of his career, so he's only number 5 as of now. So I'm adding Rodman and Kawhi as honorable mentions. And then moving Ginobili down to honorable mention. Wemby 5, Parker 4, Iceman Gervin 3, David Robinson the honorable 2, and then Tim Duncan number 1, of course. So now this is where we getting close to the end here. Ooh, Utah Jazz. This is pretty much going to remain the same. So we're just going to skim through it. Rudy Gobert, Carlos Boozer, Andre Kirkalino, still honorable mentions. Mark Eaton, Adrian Dantley, Pistol Pete Maravich, John Stockton, and Karl Malone for strictly on the court purposes. That's the list that's going down. That's remaining untouched as of now, as will the next teams likely remaining untouched. So we got Toronto Raptors. Honorable mentions, still got Damon Stoudemire, Antonio Davis, Pascal Siakam. Then the top 5, Scotty Barnes, DeMar DeRozan for longevity, Kyle Lowry for longevity. And he did play a role in that 2019 run. Even then, Kawhi Leonard, the greatest one and done in an NBA team's history. And then Vince Carter, number 1. I go Carter for longevity, and he's the guy that kind of put the Raptors on the map as their star guy. And then we got, last but not least, the Washington Wizards. Now, all right, there is one tweak we're going to make with this. We're going to get Caron Butler, Jeff Malone, Jeff Rulin stay as honorable mentions. Oh, and here's another guy I should have put on there too. Antoine Jamison is an honorable mention. And I'm going to put Michael Jordan as an honorable mention only because he was there 2 seasons. His first season, he only played half the season. So really about a season and a half tenure if you don't count that injury. But Bradley Beal, number 5 for longevity purposes. John Wall, he was the lead guy of that duo. Gilbert Arenas, number 3. He kept that Wizards team relevant through the second half of the 2000s. And he really shined as a star before self-sabotaging his own career. Then we go back to the old Baltimore Bullets days, Wes Unseld, and then Elvin Hayes, who goes back to their only championship in the 70s as their most dominant player in franchise history. So that's it. That's my list right there. I mean, there may be a few names I may have forgotten here and there, but it was fun to go back and redo this list. The first time I did it, I used the player only once, but this time adding players to it, it gives me a different point of view of the list. So I thought this would be a fun thing to do to come on here. Well, we didn't really have anything going this week, so that's my list right there. So guys, Grega, Arku, anyone else, thanks for stopping by and tuning in to episode 47 of the 3-Point Blitz. Next week, we'll have episode 48. We'll have more to discuss. We're getting closer to March Madness. NBA will be back from its All-Star break. We'll have some more to discuss next week, so stay tuned, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Later tonight at 8 p.m., it's Everything on the Table with yours truly, an Agent Warrior X, as co-host. So tune in for that. If you can't make it, have a great rest of your day. And until next time, it's your boy Nicky Steve signing off. Catch y'all later.